In the logical forms of arguments, we use the letters of the alphabet such as P, Q, and R. And so I want you to take note of these letters. They're arbitrary letters, right? We could use any letter. But for the remainder of this chapter and whenever we refer to logic, we're going to be using P, Q, and R. And so these are better known as components. And so we're going to jump right into an example. So we have our example right here. It says, if logic is easy or hard, I will study hard. Then therefore, I will get an A in this course. We got to understand in the first chapter, remember? We had a couple of statements we need to remember. So we know this is a conditional statement. It says if then, and then it follows with the pause right here with the comma. And then it follows with the last part of the statement. And so we need to be able to break down statements and understand the components of our statements. So this is a compound statement. If you take an English, and you probably won't remember, when you're a little kid, we learn about compound statements. Compound statements are anything that has an and, an or, a but, that combines sentences together. And so this is just a sentence, but it's not an ordinary sentence, it's a compound statement, or a compound sentence, right? And so let's get right into it. So it says, if logic is easy or hard. So the first thing we need to know, it says if logic is easy. And so that's going to be one of the many components that's comprised into this compound statement. So if logic is easy, then we're going to denote this part of our component in our statement P. But we would say if P or Q. So if P or Q. So if logic is easy or hard, I will study hard. If P or Q. So I want you to take note of that. We're starting to break our English words into components, mathematical components, right? Then, therefore, I will get an A in this course. And so then, right here, we're going to have a long component. So it's going to say, therefore, I will get an A in this course. So it's going to be P, Q, and R, right? Let me use this color. P, Q, and R. So, what do we need to take from this? Besides forget that I told you in the beginning that this is a conditional statement. We're learning today about compound statements. So this is a compound statement, right? And I just broke it down into P's and Q's and R's. Well, what we need to get out of this, we need to learn how to break down sentences so that they're in their component forms. And so that's what we're doing right here. We're learning how to break down a sentence into a component form. And so let's put it together. So this is going to be the common form. And what does that mean? That just means the way we write it out as in logic, or in this class for mathematics, right? In discrete mathematics, we're going to write the same way as we do in a logic class. And so the first thing we need to do is that we're not going to take away all the English words yet. We're going to put if P or, and I want you to take note of that or. We're going to learn about it right now. Q. Then, so this is our conditional statement. Really important for this chapter, and I think the next chapter, I believe. Then what else happens? It says then R. So I hope you understand what's happening here. what we just learned right now, so I'm going to summarize this, or summarize it, is that we have components. In logic, we use components, such as P, Q, and R. Here we're given a compound statement. Within this compound statement, we need to break it down into one statement, right? So one statement would be, if logic is easy. One statement would say, if logic is hard, I will study hard. Another statement says, if therefore I will get an A in this course. So I'm gonna break it down right here. So it says, if logic is easy. So that's what P stands for, right? That's what the component stands for when you break it apart. Q stands for if logic is hard. So I'm just going to break it down more simplistic. R stands for I will get an A in this course. And so that's what these statements really mean. It just has the extra parts for the statement, which I'll show you right now. So that's our three parts of our statement, right? If logic is easy, if logic is hard, I will get an A in this course. So three components. We don't really need the therefore and the then. That's only to put the, compound statements together. We don't need an or, right? That's just to put the compound statements together. And so now I'm gonna I broke it all apart, right? We have if logic is easy, if logic is hard, I will get an A in this course. And now we want to put these components or statements together, right? And so if you take these components by themselves, they're statements. So I'm gonna write that right there, so just so you get it. The components are in themselves statements. Just P and Q need to be designated to a portion of the statement. So these are statements. If P is a statement, if Q is a statement, and R is a statement, right? So we got statements, we got the components right here. But now I want to put two of the components / statements together. So I say, if logic is easy or hard, I will study hard. And so what's happening right here? We're combining two statements together, therefore making a compound statement, right? Compound statement means two or more statements. Two or more statements. And so if logic is easy or hard, I will study hard. So now we made it a compound statement. But let's say I want to add another component. I want to add another component into my compound statement. Or I want to add another component into my statement. So I say, then therefore I will get an A in this class, in this course. The class would be a sufficient word too. So it's, for this case you're using course. And so now I use these words to bring my sentences together to make compound statements. And so I hope you understand now what's happening. I just want to emphasize that because the next thing we're going to learn is a little more symbols. So this, the common form, right, means if P or Q, then R. So I hope you guys get that, and we're going to go to the next example. So here's our next example. It says, if Bob goes for a run, then Bob's heart rate will increase. And so we're asking for the common form. Alright, so if you guys feel free to stop the video anytime and try this on your own. And so what kind of statement do we have? We have an if-then statement. And so what kind of statement is that? That's a conditional statement, right? So something has to happen in order for something else to happen, to be true, and it could be false too. In some cases it's false, and we're going to learn about that in this chapter. But let's do what we just learned a couple minutes ago and put this into component form. So what do we know? After what follows the if-then statement, we know that there's components that comprise these statements. And so let's do that. And so that's why these past videos I emphasize if and then because it all builds up for this part of our chapter. And this chapter can get hard if since it's logic and most people never worked with logic before. And it's ironic because in math it's all about logic. So to carry on with this, we have two statements, right? We have if Bob goes for a run and if Bob's heart rate will increase. So let's put that on the side. And let's just put Bob goes for a run. And this is all building up for later on in the chapters when we start making our own proofs, right? There's no one way to prove something. There's a lot of different ways to prove something. This means Bob's heart rate will increase. So now we've broken down for P and Q. So we have P or Q. So we got that down. What's the next thing we need to do? Remember I said we have to write it in our common form. We have our statements, two separate statements, two separate components that are given to a statement. So we want our components to be given to a certain statement. So my component P is given to the statement Bob goes for a run. My component Q is given to the statement Bob's heart rate will increase. And so I made these examples up on my own. And so it might not be the best examples, but I didn't want to give you just one example and have you pondering the idea behind this. So it says if P, then Q. And so that's our common form. And so what kind of statement is this? So this is extra 2, right? We don't have to identify this. Well, this is a conditional statement. And like I said, it's important for later on when we're learning our new definitions. So I would just like to emphasize stuff like that. And a conditional statement is the easiest one to memorize because it's if and then, you know. But the other statements you'll see later on why they're easy to memorize too. So right now let's continue with our example. So yeah, James goes to bed early. James will rest well. So which it should be capitalized. So like I said, I made these my own examples. James will rest well. Alright. So now we gotta write the common form. And so we're gonna have if P and Q. And if we didn't know, we could denote these any things we want, right? Like I said, it could be A and B. So let's just say P and Q. Most places they're always gonna use P and Q for these statements, so I don't want to get you confused. And so that would just be our answer. And so now we're going to finally establish a definition for what a statement means. Or we could say proposition. So a statement or proposition is a sentence that is true or false, but not both. And so right here we're going to have it in an example. And this example is not going to be in per se part of this definition, but it's going to stand for what we need to know about statements and what not to do. And so he is a college student. So I want you to think about this. Is this true or false? Is it a statement? And I want you to, if you can, pause the video and think about it for a minute or two. And so, what do you think? Well, for some values of truth, this could be true, right? And for some values of truth, this could be false. And so, what does that mean? Right? That's always the question. What does that mean? So, let's see right here. Let's say James is a college student. Right? This is a word that's mixing us up. Right, it's messing everything up. So let's say James is a college student, and I'm going to type it out. Is a college student. It's not right here. And so let's say this statement is true. Right, we don't know if it's true or false, but let's just say it's true. And so then we're going to have this next statement right here. It's going to say Bob is a college student. And let's say this is false. And so now we're going to relate this to our definition of a statement. And like I said, it wasn't quite in the way that we would want to define a statement, but this is what we need to know goes against the definition of a statement. So it's a sentence that is true or false, but not both. And so all of a sudden we have a statement that is both true and false, right? Because we don't know where he is relating to, right? We don't know if he is James, he is Bob, he is some one, whatever other names, right? And so we could establish this is not a statement. And so what can we get out of this? If this sentence, so I'm going to explain to you how to make this sentence better. If this sentence had pronouns that made this sentence clear, then the sentence would be a statement. But it's neither true or false, so it is not a statement. And so just in case you're wondering what some pronouns are, here's some pronouns. And what I want you to take note is the pronouns that would have made this statement more understandable, right? If you say, I am a college student, right, that could be true or false, but it's not as vague as saying he. You know, you gotta understand what I'm saying. It's not as vague. Who is he? Who is she? And some of these we can use and some of them we can't use. And so that's just the problem with a statement, right? You can't you gotta to use nouns, like you gotta use nouns more than pronouns, if anything. And so I'll give you an example of some nouns like Bob, James, right? Those are some forms of nouns. And so now let's take a look at another example. So now that we kind of understand what it means to be a pronoun and why this statement can either be true or false. So let's go right here. It says it's going to say x plus y is less than 0. So x plus y less than 0. And so what we're going to try to do for this statement, right, because this is a mathematical statement, right? With this statement, mathematical statement, we're going to see if it's true or false. And so for these kind of numbers, let's say we can plug in some points for this. And this is not necessarily how you would prove something, right? This is definitely not how you prove something. But for the sake of this video and just understanding why we can't do stuff like this, right? Why this is not a statement, right? So we can't even prove this because it's not even in a statement. But that's a whole different idea. So let's say right here, x equals 1. This is true. Y equals 2. This is true, right? So we got something that makes this statement true. So this is a mathematical statement, right? So just take note of that. So I'll just put ST for statement. And so, like I said, this proves it. But let's say we have a different number. Let's say x equals -1. And let's say y equals 0. So what do you think about this? So remember what I said, and means they're both are part of the statement. So 1 plus 2 is 3 greater than 0. -1 plus 0 gives us -1 is less than 0. And so obviously this is false. This is true. And then this is false. And so this is not a statement. And as the statement up there is not a statement too, right? And so we showed it in a mathematical sense, right? And for this given premise or phrase right here, he is a college student, is wrong too, because it's the same way as a true or false mathematical statement, right? You can either be true and false. So that's just the gist of it. If you like this video, please subscribe to the channel and please give the video a like. If you want to see more content like this, please leave a comment down below. If you have any questions, please leave a comment down below. And if you want to see anything specific, please leave another comment down below. Thank you for everything, everybody. And I can't wait to see you all next time. Thank you and goodbye.